We are live for the 7th episode of Burning Subjects. And this episode is going to be a very interesting one. Probably going to be the longest because, well, we're going to be talking about a lot of engines. In particular, we're talking about all of the engines that operated in the Norfolk Southern steam program.
Like only Norfolk Southern, or also,
the Southern.
Prior to the merger. So
prior to the merge, we're going to be talking about like previous locomotives that operated in the Southern steam program. And
okay, so
yeah.
Hold on. I actually gotta increase my Discord volume real quick. Let's see, that's better.
NSB Productions says, "What's poppin'?" Well, what's poppin' is this, I guess. But we're gonna wait for everyone to get together. And
well, I'm already here.
Yeah. So let's first talk. How shall we start this? Maybe we should start with Steven's favorites. Some of the older ones that operated.
Okay.
Those 2 Connies and 1 Mikado. Are you catching on, Jim?
2 Connies and a Mikado. Oh yeah, the Southern Trinity.
Yes.
Like the 3 Southern boys.
Those locomotives being Southern 630, 722,
4501, and Stevens Boner Fuel 722.
Yeah. But this is the first time we're actually going to be talking about 4501 too.
No.
I think this is when oh no, we talked about the nickel plate 587. So
where are all those? Who's getting all those Discord notifications?
Me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steven, would you like to take the mic?
Okay, for like the Southern Steam Stars.
Yeah, the 3 Southern. Yes, the 2 Connies and the Miko, I guess.
Okay, basically like the history and stuff.
The history, yes, and what led them into going into the steam program.
Wait, Andrew, did you say Miko?
Oh God, no!
Yes, I did.
Yep, I did.
Mikado.
Yeah, I meant Mikado. Yeah.
I mean, you haven't watched Transformers Prime, so you wouldn't know who Miko is. So, yeah. Anyway, Steven indulges in the Southern locomotives.
Well, the 4501 was built in 1911, I believe, of the Southern Railway. It was just a typical freight locomotive until 1948. It was purchased by the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway, which was a coal hauling short line. I'm not sure where it ran, but it was renumbered to number 12 when it was on that railway. And in 1964, the Southern Railway, or either TVRM, I'm not sure, they purchased the locomotive, and the locomotive was actually cosmetically restored back into its, original number and all that stuff, and lettering. And I believe there was this ferry move that it made from, the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway to like to basically like TVRM or something like that, with I believe a baggage car, a sleeper car, or something like that, or a sleeper car, a open air car, and a observation car, or something like that.
Okay.
Because I remember years ago, like I actually watched a documentary about the 4501. But after a little bit of, maintenance on it, at the TBRM's shops, the engine was returned to service and, powered a lot of the Southern Railway steam program, trains up until like the late 70s or early 80s. And like sometime in the 60s, it was actually given a larger tender than what it was originally built with.
And to be honest, the tender that it has now, I like it more. I don't know why, but...
And I think in 91, it actually, did the triple header thing with the 611 and 1218.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually 1218's last season, but we'll get to that later. So 4501 operated there. It continued to operate at TBRM even after the steam program ended in 94. Up until 1998, it actually starred in a movie. I mean, probably multiple movies, but the one that sticks out in my mind the most is when it starred as a Norfolk and Western Mikado, still numbered 4501, which honestly is
kind of ridiculous.
Not that good of a cosplay because, the NNW didn't even purchase any 282s. They preferred, of course, the Mastodon because they had more adhesive weight. In other words, more weight pushing on the driving wheels. But it was I believe it was the last movie that 4501 got to star in before it was retired. And coincidentally, I believe some footage of 4501 when it was being filmed for October Sky ended up in Baby Einstein on the Go for some reason. I don't understand why.
Shit happens.
I don't know how the hell Baby Einstein got that footage.
But either way, on to 630, which is actually one of my favorites of them. Because, well... Anyway. We'll talk about 630 and 722, like, conjoined, since they're both the same class of locomotive and basically live the same life. You know?
Both consolidations, so yeah.
Yeah. And they're both KS1?
Yes, KS1.
Okay, just making sure. Well, Stephen, would you like to enlighten us on your boner fuel?
Yes. Obviously, I'm going to do 722 first because that one is
sadly
I like that better than 630. Despite the fact that I've seen 630 in person twice, in fact, I do like 722 a lot better. 722. I mean, I know I've stated the history before, but if you haven't seen that episode, then I want to tell it again. 722 was built by Baldwin, unsurprisingly, in September of 1904, and it hauled freight trains and logging trains on a North Carolina branch line on the Southern Railway until like 1952. Then years later, East Tennessee and Western North Carolina, who better known, I guess, in some way as the Quincy Railroad, eventually became that, I guess, or something like that, or part of it is, I don't know. But the ET and WNC wanted a couple of Connies, standard gauge Connies, to operate on their standard gauge line. Now, they were originally given two other Mikados that not Mikado, Connies, I cannot talk right now. They were originally given two other Connies that were weirdly in more of a shit condition than 630 and 722, but obviously, because they were in better condition, they opted for 630 and 722. And 207, 630 was 207, and 208 was 722. That's what they were renumbered to. They basically worked there until like the late 60s when they were bought back by the Southern. And in like 1970, 722 finally came back into operation after some firebox repairs were made, and So the engine operated from 1970 all the way up to probably like 1978 or something like that for the steam program. I mean, I've seen a picture of that engine with 2839 before, so they must have cooperated. But, basically, they got the Southern wanted more powerful locomotives, which we'll probably talk about later. So 722 was leased to, I believe in 1979, it was leased to the Wilmington and Western for a little bit, and then it was leased to the TBRM, which is where 4501 operates today. It operated from 1980 to 1985 at the TBRM, and that was the last time that 722 operated. I mean, 722 is it was the last. He was the last locomotive out of the three to be put into service, and the first one to be taken out of service. 630 was taken out of service in 1989, and it's still operational today, I guess. I'm pretty sure it's going through an inspection right now. But after that, 722, for some reason, Norfolk Southern, I don't know why they still owned it at that point, but Norfolk Southern, after like 7 years, donated it to or they basically put it on display in a park in Asheville, North Carolina, and then in 1999 it was sold off. The property was sold off so they could redevelop the place, and then 722 was sold to the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad, where it resides today, but it doesn't operate there. It's in pieces. And my God, I remember when I was back a few years ago, 2017, 2018, I was basically, really foaming over the engine and wanting it to return so badly because, the engine was so obscure now in comparison to, 4501, 630 that, the engine, I mean, it practically got forgotten about, it was in pieces. I don't know. I'm trying as best to explain why I wanted it to return so badly. But, let's just say I was in a certain user's shoes when I was foaming over 722. I mean, it has a much more likely chance of returning than a certain C and McConnell, anyone dare say its godforsaken number. But I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. But, that's basically 722. But the GSMR does have plans to restore the engine eventually.
But
in a year or so.
But yeah, it might be converted to oil and might be painted black.
Painted black? No, I heard that they actually want to keep it green. Although I'm not too concerned about it being oil fired. I mean, as long as it's operating.
If they keep it green, I will be happy. If it's oil fired, I don't care. It's a steam engine. If it's operating, I care.
Just one thing about the oil burning operation: do it right.
Wait a sec.
Yes, we're looking at the 2100 in this case. That's a good example of how not to do it.
You had to remind me of my favorite T1.
All right, are we going to get back to the Southern steam locomotives or what?
We got one more. We forgot to talk a little.
You also have to talk about friggin'
630 a little
630,
bit.
630.
Which is a locomotive that I saw. The one out of the three that I saw in person. Twice, in fact. I'll get to that later. I'm not sure when 630 was built. I'm pretty sure it was probably the same year as 722. But if I'm not mistaken, 630 was built by Alco. It basically hauled freight trains, yada, 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 until the 50s. And, it basically, like I said before, was sold to the East Tennessee and Western North Carolina, where it operated in, as 207 for a little while. And then as, the Southern Railway bought them back, the engine, 630 entered excursion service second out of the three. The engine, I dare say, was probably the least popular out of the three when it was in excursion service, probably because it was just painted in its Southern black.
Probably.
I mean, compared to now, it's a lot more famous.
Especially because a couple of years ago, have you guys ever heard the song "Creepin'"?
Yeah.
Well, 6:30 was featured in the music video for that song, of course, hauling the train that was featured in the music video. Anyway,
but 6:30 operated he operated excursions for a while. Don't know when he was brought to TBRM, but he operated at TBRM until 1989. And then in 1999 or 2000, the engine was actually, it went through a lengthy rebuild to operation, where it returned to service once again in 2011 and it was actually the first star of the very short-lived 21st Century Steam program by the Norfolk Southern. And in 2012, it was really odd. The funny thing is, I actually thought this was either 611 or 1218. But 630 was on a deadhead run going through my hometown, July of 2012. That was the first time I had ever seen a locomotive. And that's the first time I had even heard of a locomotive.
well,
But I never got to ride on it when it was on the main line. I did eventually ride on it in 2016 when I did visit the TBRM. It was just the Missionary Ridge Local.
well, now, Jim, you may.
Yes.
You're gonna talk about You're gonna be talking about 3 different locomotives, but those particular locomotives are going to be Chesapeake and Ohio 2716, Norfolk and
Dead horse. I know. I talked about it several times before.
I know, but we got to be grateful that it's actually coming back. But either way, we got to be grateful that it's coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that I talked about it twice before now.
But either way, and the second engine we're going to be talking about is, of course, Big J.
I haven't even talked about the 611 before, and I plan to do it only very briefly because I want to go about it in more detail in the next episode of Loco Profiling.
Okay. But
yeah, I gotta get out really goddamn soon. I promised it towards the end of July. It's almost the end of September.
And I remember there's another.
Speaking of, I actually got to get part 5 of my retired steam excursion stars finished by Christmas.
Part 5.
Let me guess, Andrew. The third engine is 1218.
No, I remember there was another engine that I'm talking about, and it's not a certain 87 engine, but what is it? It's on the tip of my tongue.
765.
No, I don't count that one because I want to save that one for when we talk about special, very special engines, shall we say.
587.
I just said that we weren't going to talk about 587. What is the engine that I'm thinking of? I completely forgot.
1218.
I said that I wanted to talk about the 1218. Well, I guess either way. Jim, you may talk about the 2716.
I'm gonna play the sound anyway. You should have seen that one coming.
Pun entirely intended.
Yeah.
But either way.
Bronchitis, lovely.
But either way.
Anyway, 2716. It's CNO Berkshire, or Canal as they called it. Built in 1943, one of 90 built for the CNO. Was retired in 1956 after, I believe, predominantly freight service, though there was a chance that it also could have been used on passenger service, given the canal's dual service reputation. At first, it went to I want to say New Haven, or
I think it was the Clintfield Railroad, was it?
no. Louisville, that's the original home of the Kentucky Railway Museum, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It went there in 1959 after it got donated or sold to the KRM. Then in 1979, the Clintfield was looking for a steam engine for their steam excursions. But in
I believe that their number one, 10-wheeler was probably out of commission at that point, because I believe it had a cracked frame.
I don't know, as I was trying to say. But then in 1980, the Seaboard kind of stepped in and said, no, we're going to buy out the railroad. No steam program for you. So, yeah, they leased the locomotive for nothing. But then the following year, it was picked up by the Southern. And, talk about an extreme home makeover. They basically took the 2716 and they refurbished it to working order and cosmetically altered it to basically make it look like what a Southern version of the AMC or Vanswergen Berkshire would have looked like if they got one. Like, the headlight was removed and repositioned to the center of the smokebox door. Even got a brass eagle on top and brass pillars to the sides of it. There was gold lining on the sand dome and on the cab and tender. So, yeah.
Overall, it was a
Needless
beautiful.
to say, it looks better than the original canal version, personally, to me.
I couldn't disagree more because I prefer the CNO livery. But anyway, the 2716 had operated for the Southern for only a year because unfortunately, I think the locomotive was just a little bit too modern. Because I think that they actually kind of botched it up during the refurbishment, like in regards to, I believe, the roller bearings and the driving rods. And then, of course, there was a little elephant in the room, which was cracks starting to form in the firebox, which significantly reduced the performance of the locomotive. So by 1982, it was basically sidelined, and then came a certain 484 Northern.
AKA the Cyclops Northern.
The Cyclops.
The Northern that some people would actually probably feel very much offended from if you were to call it a Northern, even though it still has the 484 wheel arrangement. You get it, it's Norfolk and Western 611.
Which I've seen in person twice.
Yes, and not only that 2716 was ever performing because it had two missing ingredients from two other Southern steam locomotives that were used.
But anyway,
So,
As I was about to say, the 611 was built by the N&W themselves. 1950 was one of their J-class Northerns, which were predominantly designed for fast passenger service. And it was rather prematurely retired, but that's also because it was introduced so late in the American steam era. Like, by 1959, the engine had already been retired, and it was the only one of the J-class Northerns to be preserved. All the others were just eventually broken up for scrap. And how it got preserved was through efforts from Ogle Winston Link, who was a New York-based photographer who voluntarily documented the final days of steam on the N&W. Lots of photographs and even a few audio recordings. So, yeah. And there, the engine just sat at the Roanoke Transportation Museum, which later grew out into the Virginia Museum of Transportation. But then in 1982, the locomotive was moved to the same facility where the 2716 was reborn, that being the Irondale Steam Shops in Birmingham, Alabama. But by that point, I believe the Southern had merged with the Norfolk and Western to form the new Norfolk Southern Railroad. Apparently, there was a Norfolk Southern Railroad in the steam era, but that one faded away into obscurity, I believe. And the main reason for the merger was because the last presidents of Southern and the NNW were literally brothers. Let me actually look this up.
Wasn't it Robert Claytor? I know that's who it was.
You had Graham Claytor, full name William Graham Claytor Jr., who was who I believe was the final president of the Southern Railway. I think. Yeah, he was the final president of the Southern Railway, and his younger brother, Robert Claytor, he was the final president of the Norfolk and Western. And so they decided, you know what, why don't we merge them together to form the new Norfolk Southern Railroad? So that's exactly what happened. And with that merger came more popularity, I think, and because of that, they needed a more powerful locomotive to handle the subsequently longer and heavier passenger trains that were being built as part of the excursion program. So that's why the 611 entered the fold. Because the J-Class Northern were, I believe, the most powerful of their wheel arrangement in the world, because they had a tractive effort of about 80,000 pounds.
Actually, Jim, there's a certain other Northern that has outbeat that by quite a bit.
29-26?
Yeah. Anyway, but let's
I thought that was actually a little less powerful, but
tractive effort makes it up to 90,000 pounds. But anyway,
the J's were more powerful than the C&O's Kanawhas, which I believe only have about 69,000 pounds of tractive effort, I think.
Nice.
If I'm going to look it up here real quick.
Nice.
Let's see, tractive effort. Yeah.
Nice! Anyway.
Nearly 69,400 pounds. But, yeah. So then the 611 had operated quite reliably for the Norfolk Southern steam program, not just on passenger assignments, but also in a bit of freight surplus. I believe in 1987, and it was the locomotive to bring the NS steam program to a close in December of 1944, which subsequently also marked the end, and it also brought the original Southern steam program to an end. But then, during the new 21st century steam program on the Norfolk Southern, and I believe in the early to mid 2010s, I want to say, the 611 was brought in as the biggest and most powerful locomotive of that fleet in 2015. I actually remember fairly well that it was fired up and moved under its own power again on Mother's Day of 2015.
Huh.
And in the process, it also was given a name, Spirit of Roanoke, which was actually written on the sides of the cab, like very small gold print, right underneath the window. But like there were people out there who absolutely despised this decision. Like, it's not historically accurate. Like, chill the fuck out, you purists. Like, they painted the name on the locomotive in such a way that from a distance you wouldn't really notice it at all. So I mean,
that is nothing compared to what I want to do to 433.
What the fuck are you guys complaining about? If you're really that offended to it, just ask if they can put like some magnetized, like a thin plate of magnetized sheet metal over it, so that it's all black. I mean, from a distance, you really wouldn't be able to see it. So why are you complaining about it to begin with? The fact that it's just there? Grow the fuck up.
Anyway,
But, yeah.
Also, in 2019, the Norfolk Western 611 would go to the Strasburg Railroad in Pennsylvania to reunite with a certain mastodon.
Yeah, a mastodon that was never part of the NS Steam program to begin with. Basically, Strasburg, I believe, hosted some little NNW fan weekends, so they got the 611 to visit and do some runs with the 475.
Well, I got to sit in 611 4 times.
Okay, as I was saying, I was able to ride behind the 611 and the 475, and I also got to, briefly have a fireman seat on the 475. And at least I know what I'm going into when it comes to the other mastodon that survives. M-class mastodon, I should say, because there are other mastodons of other classes that survive from NNW, namely the M2s. But the 433, I know what I'm getting into now, kind of, because, I've been in the camp with a mastodon before.
But
with a shotgun firebox, that is.
I'd like to talk about the 1218.
Yes, you shiny little bastard.
Which is our fallen king, or our fallen
Big F.
Yeah. But either way,
for the 4014, it was the most powerful operational steam engine in the world.
Well, was
by a long shot, then that is.
But either way, it was a sole survivor in a couple of different ways. One of the A's, and two, the only locomotive left in the entire world with a with
a 2664 wheel arrangement.
Yes.
But when I was little, I thought 1218 was a Challenger, by the way.
Forgive it.
Anyway, but either way, just before we actually talk about the 1218, let's compare the 1218 to a Challenger when it comes to strength and speed or overall efficiency.
They all know what Challenger we're going to compare it to.
Of course, 3985, since, it was the most recent to operate.
3985 is a little bit bigger, but 1218 is a hell of a lot more powerful.
Exactly. It just goes to show that, bigger isn't always better.
Yeah.
Anyway. But the 1218 was built in, was it 1944?
43.
1943 by the Norfolk and Western themselves as a homegrown high-speed freight. If you wanted to, you can use it on a passenger train because, of course, you got the speed for passenger, and when it comes to strength, a single A can carry up to, 200 fully loaded hoppers without assistance?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. But either way, the 1218, the A's, all of them, worked fine in service. But, of course, steam was starting to go out of it. And so originally all the A's were actually destined for the scrapper's torch. But 1218, as we know, is the lucky one, being bought by a Union Carbide company as a stationary boiler. And stayed there for how long? Until it was bought by our classic F. Nelson Bloom for his Steamtown, USA collection. And then, it was sold back to Roanoke, in which it was cosmetically restored in the same place it was built. And then
it was initially for a trade, by the way.
Yeah.
Or actually it was initially for the purpose of just borrowing it out.
Yeah, and I quote.
And then the VMT wanted it for themselves, so they traded it for 2 diesels.
Yeah, and I quote, temporary display. But either way.
Yeah, because that was before the trade.
Yeah, but either way, it was put on display in a park, but then, of course, the steam program arose. And, they started, as the steam program grew in more popularity, and, more people were joining, more carriages needed to be hauled, and so they needed a more powerful locomotive. And so they took the only A and restored it to operation. within how long was it?
About 2 years.
2 years.
They got it in 1985, and then it was more or less completed in April of 1987.
Holy shit! That's actually surprising for an engine that big. But either way, well,
Like, think of it as the prequel 9 years to my birthday. Like, 1996 is when I was born, so I guess they were kind of foreshadowing my birth. Well,
but either way,
but
the 1218 was then fired up, and well, it put on a grand show during the steam program, to the point where even today the 1218 is known as one of the greatest engines to operate in the preservation era. Well, to operate at all. But sadly, 1218's story or life wasn't to last much longer.
Following the deaths of the two men that we discussed earlier, things went downhill fast.
Wait. Well, the 1218's final run came at the end of the 1992 season. What was it?
1991.
1991. And well,
that was also the same year that 1218 went to the 1991 NRHS convention in Huntington, West Virginia, and it pulled a couple of excursions there, and also, like we said before, it triple heads with 611 and 4501.
And I'm pretty sure it actually got to be side by side with our favorite elephant-eared giant. Yeah, okay. But either way,
that was 1990 in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, that was actually epic. I remember that. Oh no, now I remember.
I mean, not that we were there. I mean, we weren't even born back then.
That was epic. But either way,
But that's when steam excursions were awesome.
let's make steam excursions great again.
But yeah, 1991, last run of the 1218. Then it went into storage for somewhat longer and more thorough refurbishment.
To get it back to basically factory fresh condition, so that the locomotive
the
would.
Challenger, which was just a botch job.
Yeah, but either way,
Big staff, but yeah.
the 1218 was sent into another federal mandated inspection to completely bring it back to factory fresh condition to make it last longer and overall perform much more up to expectations. But
sadly, this doesn't happen.
After the deaths of William and Robert Clare, the two men, both responsible for the 1218's return to steam and the Norfolk Southern steam program,
things went downhill very fast.
Very, very fast. Because, well, first...
Have fun quoting me. Yeah, you guys are kind of quoting me, I get that.
But either way, the locomotive...
Unwanted change.
Yeah, unwanted change came to the program during the... Well, one, major restraints were placed on the locomotives, so limiting where and when they can actually run. And then, well, insurance costs, because damn Democrats... I'm not getting into politics. But either way.
$10 million per year in 1993
to $25 million
per year in 1994.
So ignore Big Bill Hell's car commercials.
On the horizon.
So ignore.
Get worse.
So ignore Big Bill Hell's car commercial, and well, the real death sentence for the Norfolk Southern steam program, well, was one snap to get everything gone, and that was a switching accident in the yard, which, well, 9 NS passenger cars were derailed, and wouldn't you know, 2 of them were beyond economical repair. And, well, they basically just started beating the program to death, to the point where they've had enough. And
was the engineer of the switcher named Hammond? Did he have a last name of Hammond?
But either way.
For all I know, that
here's the only proper response delivered to us by Jeremy Clarkson.
Either way. But yes, after that switching accident, they decided to terminate their steam program. And well, after one final run with the 611, things were done. And well, the 1218 was, well, would you like to take a moment to say exactly what happened, Jim?
It was, well, at that time, it was in bits.
Here's in bits.
And then it was mostly reassembled in 1996, though I believe there were some pieces on the inside that were missing.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, mainly boiler tubes and flues, which still kind of sucks.
Wait, what exactly caused all of these things? Like the timetable limitations and the rising insurance costs?
I don't know, but going back to what happened to 1218 after its second retirement, 2001, it was donated to the city of Roanoke and moved back to the VNT. And in 2012, the 1218 got donated again to the VNT proper.
And where it stood?
It's been there ever since. And
it stood side by side.
A few minor cosmetic touch-ups.
Well, it stood.
And that's it.
And it stood side by side with 611 for a little while.
Second retirement, it did, it was part of a special event with the 2156, which is now back at the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, and the 611 when it returned to steam.
Yeah. But come on. Isn't that awesome?
And even though we don't have 2174, we still have 2156 to complete the big three.
Yeah. Even if it does have a cracked frame. Anyway. The 1218 is sadly almost doomed, since restoration is a considerable effort. I mean, well, a considerable thought, but with all the parts missing and the size of the locomotive, it's very unlikely that the last Class A will ever see steam again. And it's just sad that this mammoth beast of an engine sadly probably won't run anymore. Unless
definitely won't run again. I know that, because nobody wants to spend the money on, refurbishing that thing. Because, and nobody wants to buy that thing from the BMT anyway. But, again, 611 was returned to service in 2015, albeit thanks to Flyboy Anderson, it was reduced to, we're operating at the NCTM and Strasbourg of all places. I think they recently steamed the 611 up this year.
Yeah, I think I actually saw a video of it. But, well, that's most of them. But now let's use the next 20 minutes to talk about our opinion on one, the locomotives that operated, what has happened to them today, and what do you think their future might be?
Well, first, again, I would like to repeat that auditory dramatization of the switching accident in Lynchburg, Virginia. This is the reaction of the man shouting towards the engineer.
Well, and I hope that switcher was eventually scrapped as well.
What a roast! That's a roast if I've ever seen one.
Just a diesel switcher.
Oh. But in all honesty, well, I think it's awesome that 2716 is being refurbished.
Yeah. I mean, we need, and I quote Mr. Kovac for this, but we need more.
You're going to quote a line that I actually wrote for him.
Yeah. We need more Berks fired up, man.
No, we need more mountain types fired up. That's the real thing. There's only been 2 locomotives in North America that have operated in the preservation era with a 482 wheel arrangement. And those are 1522 and 6060.
Well, meanwhile, looking in Europe, with the I believe the Czechoslovakian Albatross class of mountain types. I mean, I think there are a couple of those running here too. But anyway, when it comes to 2016, really happy to see it return again. They could just keep it in C&O garb as far as.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do also think it's really damn cool that they wanted to give it a damn good cosmetic refurbishment prior to the move from New Haven, Kentucky, to Ravenna, Kentucky, where they got the former CSX car shop that will now be the home base for the Kentucky Steam Heritage Corporation, where they're going to do the actual refurbishment.
Well, yeah. To be honest, yeah.
And they've recently done some pretty heavy work on the stay-bolts in the firebox.
To say the least,
I can only think of one proper bit of music that they were probably playing during then. Should I stay or should I go?
I get it.
Yeah, 611. To kind of answer a little bit of a question I guess I got from someone in the past. Like, why didn't you put 611 on your list? I guess I don't like it as much as the other NNW giants.
To be honest, I mean, like NNW's Northerns. Yeah, they're unique, but I'm just not that interested in them. You know?
Yeah.
We like their freight.
And if you ever thought that the streamlining of the J's was unique, nah, they also put it on the smaller K-class 482 mountain type locomotives.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess because it's another Northern, even though Northerns are good, it's just that I think that the 1218 and the 2156 were just a bit more characterful because they were, at least semi-unique articulated locomotives.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you see an articulated steam locomotive operating today? I can only name a few, like those Mallet tank engines, the big
Still
boy,
count.
huh?
They would still count.
What?
But like when it comes to standard gauge, that's definitely a huge friggin' rarity.
What?
Like right now, we only really have the big boy.
I mean, we do have the 1309 soon, but
Yes.
They have a Skookum.
oh yeah, we do have the Skookum.
That too, I did kind of forget that.
Yeah, and especially because, well, the Skookum we mentioned last episode, and you guys literally did not know it was such an important source of
I knew about it. I heard about it. I have a trains model of it.
You do?
Yeah.
Let me see. Not right now, but either way. Oh, I got a good question for all of you.
Yes.
What locomotive do you think they would have chosen if they didn't choose 1218?
I have literally no idea.
Well, sure as
a better question.
3.
What?
I said sure as hell not 433.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been. And I don't think they would have been crazy enough to restore the 2156. Wow.
No, you would need some pretty damn hefty welding to get that frame fixed. Or, just literally hope to friggin' God that you would be able to rebuild the goddamn, like literally cast a new front engine unit.
Which...
It may be it's your safest bet, but it's still ridiculously expensive as all fuck.
I mean...
So, in hindsight, it would be preferable to constantly have to patch up the weld on the crack on the existing front frame.
Would they? Maybe they would have chosen 2050. No.
2050 was even worse.
Yeah.
Pick.
Yeah, I would just say no because yes, it has an okay frame, but
More likely, the boiler and all that shit's rusted all the fuck.
yeah.
Like the big problem with 2050, I guess it's just many years of neglect, and the fact that it's an older and far more elderly Y class melee that hasn't really gotten the big upgrades to give it a little bit of stead.
Yeah, to say the least, I think 2050 would be a disaster.
It will be clogging up rail traffic, that is for sure.
But what do you think they would have chose?
I have no idea.
Well, if they brought the steam program back sometime in the future, I think they would probably get 2102 and 2100 to do the excursions. Besides, they are reading steamers.
Reading? Why are you
Reading, yes.
Did Reading eventually get absorbed into the Norfolk Southern or what?
Yes, they did.
Ooh!
It was owned by it was bought by Conrail, and then that went defunct, and then it was owned by Norfolk Southern.
Imagine! Oh my god, my heart just dropped. Imagine if 2100 and 2102 did a doubleheader. Again.
They probably did during the Rambles.
I know, but imagine if they do it again.
You would nut.
Yeah, I would.
Imagine if they brought Savannah and Atlanta 750 back and use them in the excursion.
Well, if you guys don't know...
I don't think that might be such a good idea because even though it's a Pacific, I think it's a bit of a slow one.
Yeah, but even though it's still operated on the Southern steam program. But anyway.
Yeah.
I highly doubt they would have used 610 again after what happened.
Yeah.
After all, they were hell-bent on, high speed, basically.
Yeah.
When it comes to speed, even though it probably would have been like a bit of a case of making a deal with your arch nemesis, it would have been kind of interesting to see if they could have gotten 614.
614?
CNO.
I know 614. I know, but imagine.
Think about it. It's another 484 Northern that is capable of a very good amount of high speed.
And the fact that it was numbered 611.
No, not that. I'm just looking at the freaking capabilities of the locomotive.
Oh.
It has a high amount of tractive effort, so it should be a very good compromise between speed and power.
Oh no, I got an idea.
As small as on the 611 because the NWJ Northerns had 70-inch driving wheels, whereas the CNO Northerns classified as J3As and J3s or J3As and called Greenbriers. That, from what I've heard, they had 72-inch diameter driving wheels, so they wouldn't be quite as sure-footed, or they wouldn't have as much grip, but still. High tractive effort and high speed should make for a very good excursion locomotive.
What's wrong, Andrew?
I have a very bad idea.
What?
What if Norfolk Southern got the 1601?
Shut your fucking mouth.
I told you it was a bad idea!
I do believe that now I have to punish you with one of your worst nightmares in the USA locomotive shedding your server.
Oh boy.
Wait.
Bring home the unholy terror.
What? Ah!
Terror of the gonna post it? Is there? No, there's no European locomotive.
No.
Batman. God, it never existed because, of course, we don't want that.
Keep the fucking Reichspurbahn out of this. You dirty South American Schweinhund. Oh no, wait! I just mistook you for an actual South American. That wasn't Southern United States. No offense to anybody of Hispanic origin. Oh God!
People.
But yeah.
What?
Oh, Dan is online.
Well, how about this? How about what if instead of 611, they got a different locomotive for the job?
The only pick I would have again is 614.
I wouldn't have a pick. I don't really know that much about
because
I don't even know what the hell they would have picked. Really, most of the other NNW steam engines are, like with the exception of 611 and 1218, aren't that fast. The irony is I want to run 433 on the main line, but it can only go like 50. Although the QJs on the Iowa Interstate are able to rocket along at 50.
Maybe that's because the Iowa Interstate isn't a Class 1 railroad? Maybe that's the big thing?
Yeah, Class 1 railroads are assholes when it comes to steam engines.
I guess except for BNSF.
Yeah, exactly. Or I guess CSX once 2716's back in operation.
Definitely. Like, I think they're kind of sponsoring Kishko or something.
They are actually. They're helping with the rebuild.
Southern was even kind enough to give them a decently maintained diesel locomotive.
Look at this stream. I started messing with my head, thinking of an engine and I accidentally did something with my forehead.
I got oh my God! What the fuck are you doing, Andrew?
I have no idea. Oh my God, that's weirder.
Dan? You there?
No, he's not.
Okay. Wait, did you take a screenshot of that?
I take that back. He is.
Did you take a screenshot of that?
I didn't.
Oh my God.
Hello.
Hi, Dan. Oh.
Did I came in too late?
No.
We're still alive, but we have basically burned through most of the subject.
But Dan, we are still trying to answer this question, which is a good. If the Norfolk Southern didn't use 611 for this steam program, what locomotive would they use?
Honestly, I'll be honest. I think just literally any of the steam locomotives from the Southern steam program.
Even 2839.
Well, 2839 is out of the picture because, same story with 610 shit. Like, I would have thought something like maybe continue operating with CNO 2716 or just continue operating with locomotives such as Atlanta 750, Southern 4501, and 630, and those engines. They probably
we literally mentioned them at the beginning of the stream.
I'm talking to Dan. He didn't mention my foaming engine of the Southern.
Well, you get the point, though.
Even the 722.
Even if 611 wasn't selected, at the same time, it would have made sense that if 611 wasn't selected for the excursions, then wouldn't have been selected as well. So they would have probably just sticked with all the Southern excursion locomotives.
I
Dan,
Dan.
But
how would you react if 614 operated for Norfolk Southern?
I mean, it operates.
Deal with your arch nemesis.
I mean, if 614 operates, it operates.
Well,
It could be worse. They could be getting the Canuck to operate the steam program. That would be awful.
3254.
I never understood why did we even bring 3254 into the subject right now? Because
are we going to continue on, or
what does it have to do with that? Nothing. Right.
well,
We basically kind of burned through all of it. We don't really have anything else to talk about.
well,
that
has been this episode of Burning Subjects. Tune in next Wednesday instead, because well, we have problems. But anyway, next Wednesday we're gonna be talking. Next Wednesday we're gonna be talking about the Strasburg Scenic Railroad.
my favorite railroad of Pennsylvania?
But either way, we're gonna be talking about.
I thought it was going to be a top 10 list or something.
Oh,
I
the
mean,
next.
we did kind of say that every even-numbered episode of Burning Subjects would be a top 10 list of some kind.
Yeah.
But
Either
you
way.
decided to backfire on that.
What?
You decided to backfire on that.
Well, every third episode is going to be a
third episode.
Yeah.
Number 9 is next.
yeah. So number 9 is going to be our next top 10 sort of list.
So Survivors?
I might change my mind from the old idea.
Please let it be Soul Survivors. Realize that Dan.
Okay. But either way, we will see you guys next Wednesday for Strasburg Railroad. Hope you had a good time and I don't know, have a cup of tea or
I'll
something.
be able to hop in there.
Have a cup of tea. How about that?